There's this movement called sex positive parenting that's been going around for a while, where you speak frankly with your children about sex so that they're not afraid of it, so they understand it, so that they can make better decisions for themselves. I do this with my son. And so having a conversation with a 13-year-old about sex is awkward, it's uncomfortable. It's easier if you have had conversations when they were younger, setting sort of like a foundation for all the weird. I mean, sex is so private, like we want to keep it to ourselves, but children need information so that they can make wise decisions. One of the things that I tell people is most children have seen porn by the time they are 12. And when I was in junior high school, I knew of 11 and 12-year-olds who were having sex. I do not think that that was special to my community. I think lots of people are having sex. So if having sex at 11 or 12 is what I knew about, I mean, and I also know other people who are doing things with like older people, like all the things. And we know that child molestation usually happens within families or family friends. We also know that child trafficking is a real thing that's happening. So it's wise to inform your children so that they can be safe. So with my son, we have had many conversations about sex. You know, when they're younger, they don't ask about sex. They usually ask about the products, which is a child, like where do babies come from, comes from inside mom's belly. A lot of that is sort of easy to explain to children because they don't require a lot of explanation. I think around age 7, 8, 9, they start, wondering about other people's body parts, not just their own. And then 10, 11, 12, they're definitely like wondering what sex is, maybe have seen porn already. And so they'll come to you with questions if they feel safe. If they don't feel safe, then I would really encourage parents to go to their kids and ask them, oh, have you seen anything, interesting or weird? You may be wondering, where are they seeing the porn or whatever? But I want you to think back to when you were a child and when was the first time you saw porn? When was the first time you had a conversation about sex with your peers? Like, they're going to get the information. You got it. You know what sex is. You got the information. And so do you want it to come from someone who knows and has experience and someone who cares about you? Or are you going to let them get the education on the internet from their friends who maybe were exposed to too many things too soon? So with my son and I, we have regular conversations, school stuff, relationship stuff, peers, friendships, that kind of thing. But every now and then he comes to me with a particular question and we have a whole conversation about it. So these are not scheduled birds and the bees talk. I don't think I've ever had a family meeting where we just talked about sex. It came up in conversation because we were watching something on TV, saw something inappropriate, and he's finishing junior high now, so he's a boy. So all the, we watched Michael Scott together. So all of that's what she said, he gets all of those now because, he's around a bunch of boys who are just doing boy things. So our conversations usually are very frank. I think it's very important to use proper anatomy words with children starting very young. I'm writing a book now about parents who are courageous enough to say vagina and penis to their children because that hits different, right? If your child comes to you and says, someone touched me on my penis, that's different than if they just came and said, somebody touched my pee-pee. It's a little different when a girl says, someone touched my vagina. Huh? It's a little different. So I think it's very important to teach children the appropriate words at a young age. So when we speak, we use the appropriate terms. Our last conversation was about, I think, someone who has an OnlyFans account. And so he knows what OnlyFans is from his friends. We haven't had this conversation about OnlyFans, but he came to me asking about it and asking about a particular post that a young lady who has an OnlyFans made on the internet because he was trying to understand it. He was being exposed to this by people at school. And so we had a conversation about that. That video, it's going to be private because my son is on it. And I don't know if you've noticed, I don't like sharing him with the world. He's like the most important person to me. And I just, if he makes his own YouTube channel, like he's been talking about for a while, that's different. But, on my channel, I don't really want to. So I'm gonna find a way, maybe a Patreon, to upload this video where it's me and him talking about pornography, sex as it relates to, you know, people consuming information on the internet. Tingled. Entwined in that conversation is also about consent, what it means to get consent, to give consent, what it, you know, in this like Me Too movement, and I have a boy, nobody wants to be Me Too'd. It's fine line these days. I think the Me Too movement is necessary. My description for it is an extreme reaction to an extreme history of people abusing, manipulating, coercing women. It'll come back to balance. It will come back to balance. And in the meantime, having conversations about consent with my son, because he's 13 and no, he hasn't had sex yet, but that will come soon. Sooner than, you know, maybe I would like, but the average age of teenagers having sex is 17. Average means most people, right? But there's a range of people. Like I said, I know people who've had sex at 11, 12, and people who are still virgins. I know people. So we have regular conversations. I think it's important because children need to be safe. They need to be safe. And there's so many dangers out here in the world. You know, I'll do another video on child trafficking because that and incest, I just think, you know, the average person just doesn't realize how often it happens and how it doesn't have to be as organized as, you know, you think it is. It's really, you know, family members, family friends who you need to be the most careful about. Was definitely my thing when my son was young, like, anybody. I am cautious of everybody, you know, like sort of like a paranoid kind of way. But let me know what you think in the comments. Have you had conversations with your children about sex? How did it go? Remember to like, subscribe, please. Share this video with someone you think it may help. And thank you for watching.